Today's scripture, the first one is from Ecclesiastes, chapter 4, verses 9 through 12. Two are better than one because they have a good reward for their toil. For if they fall, one will lift up the other. But woe to one who is alone and falls and does not have another to help. Again, if two lie together, they keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? And though one might prevail against another, two will withstand one. A threefold cord is not quickly broken. And from Romans chapter 12, for by the grace given to me, I say to everyone among you, not to think of yourself more highly than you ought to think, but to think with sober judgment, each according to the measure of faith that God has assigned. For as in one body we have many members, and not all the members have the same function. So we who are many are one in body in Christ, and individually we are members one of another. We have gifts that differ according to the grace given to us: prophecy in proportion to faith, ministry in ministering, the teacher in teaching, the encourager in encouragement, the giver in sincerity, the leader in diligence, the compassionate in cheerfulness. And the final verse is from Colossians chapter 3, verses 12 through 15. Therefore, as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience. Bear with one another, and if anyone has a complaint against another, forgive each other, just as the Lord has forgiven you, so you also must forgive. Above all, clothe yourselves with love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony, and let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called in one body, and be thankful. Here ends the reading.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm going to be clearing my throat a lot, so just be prepared for that. It's a warning. It's kind of interesting to be talking about community when so many of us are missing. However, we are a community in spirit. We're all on a spiritual journey. Just in case you weren't sure, we are. Just by living our lives, we are deep into that journey. And we can't really move through our spiritual journey and not encounter anyone else. See, we're all in here together, journeying. We're not alone in it. Everyone is on that spiritual quest, even if they don't know it. Maybe for some, it's a sense of something missing. If they're, maybe it's a sense of there's something more out there. For others, it's the knowledge that we're created with intent, and we seek it through our journey. Whatever the reason we embark on our quest, there will always be other members in the spiritual discovery community, and God will always be in the midst of it, whether we know it or not. So, community, it's a word that's come up a lot lately for me. It could just be that I'm more aware of it. Like when a couple is thinking about having children, and all of a sudden there's all these pregnant women and children around that they're noticing. I think that since I've chosen to work now and no longer be cloistered in my home, that I'm having more experience with community and have therefore thought more about it. I am in the midst of it. Anyway, the word community seems more widely used each time and with distinctive brands. The Ayurvedic community, school community, arts community, law enforcement community, church community, Asian, Black, and Hispanic communities. I was curious, so I did a search of community. I typed in examples of community. Up popped a page that had a list of 27 broad communities that included counterculture, fundamentalist, gated, multicultural, LGBTQ, hobby. And that was only a partial list. And those are just the generalized ones. It's not the specific communities within. At its most basic definition, community is a group of people who share something. It might be a location, a cause, a philosophy, religion. Anya defined it as a group of people working together. While that may not always be the case, it's an apt description. A community is different from a group of friends. In a community, we often don't know many details about the lives of many of the members. In some cases, depending on the size of the community, there are people who are truly strangers. We may only know their name, or if you're me and bad with names, you won't even know that. Of course, in our communities, there may be friendships that develop. There's no ban on that. It was through different communities that I met my closest friends. The communities no longer exist, but the friendships have remained strong. Most of us belong to several communities, though we may not use that word to describe them. Some are by default, and others carry more meaning. Before I continue, I want to say that there are many ways in which a family is a community. It is a group of people with something in common, but I want to focus on the broader communities that God uses to fill our relational and spiritual needs. Communities can be brought together by an idea, a situation, a need, a cause, a simple interest. There's a whole host of reasons communities exist. It can be the teachings of an individual. Jesus had his community. Well, he still does. He gathered some, like the disciples, and others, such as Mary, Martha, Lazarus, and Mary Magdalene, were drawn to him and his teachings. All of them were part of his inner circle. Now, communities can have attributes of families, as I said, in that not everyone gets along all of the time. For instance, James and John, with their mothers meddling, wanted to sit on the right and left side of Jesus. The rest of the disciples were not happy about that. They were indignant. Jesus settled it by reminding them that whoever wishes to be first among you must be your servant. Thomas, who, while the others believed that Jesus had been resurrected, said he needed proof. There are cases when one shouldn't take things at face value. I'm not sure that this was one of them. Jesus was there to resolve this as well. Then there was when Jesus was anointed by a woman in Bethany the week prior to Passover, and the disciples were furious that such an expensive oil was being wasted for that. Jesus told them to leave her alone. She bought it so she would have it for my burial. I think that probably silenced them. And let's not forget Mary and Martha, typical siblings. Martha felt like Mary needed to help prepare things, and Mary was just hanging out with Jesus. When Martha complained to Jesus, he told her to relax and join them. I'm sure Jesus appreciated everything Martha was trying to do, but like many of us, he was more interested in spending time with them. The community of Jesus wasn't just this, though. It wasn't just his inner circle. There were many more. Luke tells us of more than 70 people Jesus appointed to go out before him. We see in Jesus' community men, women, children, young, old, rich, poor, tax collectors, and fishermen. No one was excluded. All were welcome, and they still are. Most communities should be diverse, whether by location, purpose, or need. Jesus' community was an example of that. Everyone needs community. In essence, it's because we all need relationship. In a community, we seek a way to be part of something. Sometimes the search is intentional, and at other times we don't even know it's happening until we feel it. Not all communities are healthy. We may not always be in the right community, but we don't always know that right away. Our Colossians text provides us with some ideas of how best to journey with others. Clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, meekness, patience. Bear with one another. And if anyone has a complaint, forgive each other. Clothe yourselves with the love that binds. What I like about the next part is it binds everything together in perfect harmony, because it means we're not all on the same line. We're on different lines, but we all are managing to do that together. And let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called in one body. And be thankful. The communities we travel through on our journey should allow us to grow, learn, contribute, laugh, and feel good about what we're doing. They should also challenge us in all the best ways. I mentioned in the past that once I was diagnosed by the bipolar disorder, that I had a lot to process and discover about myself. Part of that was figuring out where I belonged and what I had to offer. I'd always been a part of different groups, but obviously never fully me, whoever that was. It's hard when you suffer from depression and you're struggling to know who you are. My church community had always been a safe place, but that failed me once I began my journey towards stabilization and healing. I was the director of worship arts ministry and the choir director. The minister essentially told me that I had to put on a good show. It felt like he disregarded my journey. It was spiritual, mental, and emotional, extremely difficult, and it would have been better if I'd had more support. But appearance mattered. I was high functioning, and I don't think most people would have known there was anything wrong unless I said something, but that wasn't enough. I thought I was in a safe community, but it failed me. Unfortunately, there are groups in which this can happen. There are people within them that can make it difficult to remain, and without the support of others, it's best to leave. After some time, I found a place of grace and support, a community that strives for relationship as God desires, a community that supports and accepts people right where they are at any given moment. I wrote several poems as I was journeying through my search for community. This is one of them. I look in on life from the periphery, just outside of theirs, a beat or two or more behind. I long for what I see, but can't touch. It's not real to me on the periphery. Lives with meaning and dreams, purpose and connection. I reach out, desire full, but I'm out of sync on the periphery, and I miss it all. Feeling out of sync can be a problem sometimes. We all need purpose and connection. We all need a way to serve, to be part of something greater than ourselves, and community provides that for us. I believe we are called to community. There may be false starts. There are certainly going to be places that are not the right fit for us as we grow, as our interests change, as our concerns are different, and our passions grow. It's a process of whether we know ourselves well or we're just figuring ourselves out. Communities are key to our journey, our life journey, our spiritual journey. We all have our inner circle, those few people outside of our family we feel best know us. But community is different than friendship. We all need the larger circle of people that can include acquaintances, coworkers, friends outside of the inner circle. These are all important people. We can learn from them, flourish with them, support each other, and create change. Communities may spring up and surprise us. The action of community members is partially described in our Romans text. For as one body, we have many members, and not all of them have the same function. So we, the many, are one body of Christ. Individually, we're members one of another. So we're still, even as individuals, still members together. We have gifts that differ according to the grace given to us: prophecy in proportion, ministering, the teacher, the encourager, the giver, and the leader in diligence, the compassionate in cheerfulness. Everyone in a community has something to offer and make that community stronger. So it's not just what we gain, it's also what we give. It's all part of the journey we are on together. When we experience grief, we have our inner circle to cry with and cling to. That's not something community can do. However, community can offer a blanket of God's love, and we need that too. As I mentioned in the beginning, the awareness of community has been startling for me. The word, it's everywhere. There are all kinds of communities. Some are in person, some are online. If there's a way to communicate and ideas to share, there will be community. All kinds of opportunities for relationship are there. In some of these communities, you might never even meet the people face to face or know their real names. Kendra belongs to a couple of artist communities. The members post art, comment, encourage, and never judge. These communities offer the support that Kendra and other artists need that comes from outside friends and family. We don't always trust the praise of those closest to us. So to receive encouragement from outside of that, from other artists, is affirming. As much as I love community, it can leave me wanting. There are people in my communities that I desire to know better. You can't get to know everyone though, not fully. There isn't time to share and learn the heart of everyone. This realization hit me hard this summer. I operated the camera for the memorial services that we had here. And listening to people's memories of the individuals impacted me intensely. It caused me to wonder more about them and thinking, I wish I had known that. There's so many stories out there. You can feel deeply about others without being friends in the most traditional sense, yet you can't know everyone. We can't know every story. I want that though. I'm exceedingly curious and genuinely fascinated by the people around me. My interest in trying to get a handle on community stems from working at the school. There's a mix and overlap of the communities there. Since it's a school, there's the parents and students, the families, and then there's the coworker community. There's times when I have a definite sense of joy of community with the people at the school, the families, students, staff. A couple of weeks ago on field day, there was a lot of excitement from all the kids. The kindergartners were in class and dancing to the Jackson 5 oldie ABC, bouncing all over and just filling the air with laughter. They were going to have an alphabet parade and wear ABC vests that they made, each child with a different letter, and the vests were full of pictures and things that began with that letter. You didn't know what you might find on those vests. When it was time for the parade, the music began and they made their way to the hallway. Anyone in the building stopped and watched them traipse through to the back door and out onto the field. They were cheered enthusiastically. The older students were busy with their field day, but some turned to watch the kindergartners continue their parade. Staff was moving to the music and delighting in all as they videotaped the procession. It was lovely, delightful, a beautiful time that touched me so much that I teared up, which I know I do easily, as you all know. But still, after school that same day, we had a community fair and market. There were so many vendors and just, people, community, and kids and laughter. The variety of vendors included kids who made bracelets and bookmarks, local businesses, and everything in between. Kendra had her artwork and family honey. Anya was selling her historic lemonade. There were parents, staff, and students perusing and purchasing. It was delightful. The entire day just filled me with this marvelous, this wonderful sense of community. The scene filled my heart. People helping each other to set up and to take down. Community. I've discovered another kind of community in that, my coworker community. It's been a long time since I've worked for pay, and this last year has opened up so much for me. My coworkers are definitely part of that. I have no doubt that if I need assistance with anything, they will be present. There's a sense that everyone truly cares about each other. We may not all know each other that well, but we care. I work in the lunchroom during second grade lunch. Now, I didn't work in the lunchroom last year, which I was really okay with. Anyway, because I do now, I have had the pleasure of getting to know our facilities manager. I mentioned to her how I appreciate the opportunity, and she said, yeah, I didn't even know who you were last year, just that you were here. Now, all of this doesn't mean that it's blissful and there aren't disagreements. Let's be real, humans are involved, but there's a great deal of respect and compassion. Anyway, this whole community thing came to mind because I was thinking about how much I appreciate and care about my coworkers, how some of them do feel like friends, yet I know so little about them. There are friendships that community members have built, and I love seeing that. We do share more than pleasantries at work. It's unavoidable when working with students. I hope they know that when I ask how they're doing, that I am sincere in that inquiry. And I might be a little naive, but I assume that when they ask me that they aren't always just being polite. I do feel a sense of community there, and there are times when I need that. We have some really tough days, and that sense of camaraderie helps. There's a musical that's in Denver right now, Come From Away. We get to see it tonight, and I know Sue saw it Friday. It's about the Newfoundland town of Gander and what occurred there when American airspace was closed off to all international travel on 9/11. 38 planes with around 7,000 passengers were ordered to land at the Gander airport. They were there for 5 days. The musical uses the names and experiences of many of the townspeople and passengers who were involved. It's a beautiful, inspiring, tender telling of how the Gander community took in the passengers and graciously cared for them. And the new community that was born out of that was nothing planned, nothing foreseen, but it happened. There were some friendships formed, but mainly it was a community of people who were connected by tragedy and helped each other in the initial aftermath of that. When the 10-year anniversary and reunion takes place, the mayor proclaims, "Tonight we honor what was lost but we also commemorate what we found, community. It all comes back to relationship, our journey with self and others. I will always press into the need for relationship with God, with others. It's primary in God's creation of us. Though not all communities are alike, and we can offer something of ourselves for the betterment of the communities we share. When in community, we delight in the joys of each other. We offer affirmation. We work toward a common good and support each other when there is tragedy. God offers and envelops us in that community. God's gift of community enables each of us to graciously love and strengthen all of us. That is community. This is our Creator's community. Journey into it.